Okay, so far we have only worked with tables in our entity data model. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to work with stored procedures. The process is exactly the same. So here I'm going to right click on an empty area and go to update model from database. On the add tab, here you can see all the stored procedures and functions. So I'm going to bring all of them into my model. Now I'm going to introduce you to a new checkbox on this tab. The last one here. Import selected stored procedures and functions into the entity model. What does this mean? Well, let's quickly review something from one of the earlier lectures. You know that our entity data model consists of three parts: the storage model, the conceptual model, and the mapping between the two. The storage model is the representation of the database objects. So when we bring our database objects like tables or stored procedures, they will be defined in the storage model. Now, when we check this checkbox here, apart from bringing these stored procedures and functions into our storage model, this wizard will also create functions in our conceptual model that we can call to execute those stored procedures. So if we don't tick this here, we are not going to have a way to execute these stored procedures. We're not going to have any methods. So honestly, I don't know what's the purpose of this checkbox here. Because if I bring a stored procedure in my model, I want to be able to call it. I don't want to bring it just to store it in the storage model. So my advice to you is to keep this checked at all times, but I just wanted to explain what's happening under the hood. Now let's go ahead and finish this wizard. Okay, now let's take a look at the model browser. So here's the storage model. Let's take a look at stored procedures and functions. So look, here are what we currently have in the database. And in our conceptual model, you see that under function imports, we've got a bunch of functions or methods with the exact same name as the stored procedures or functions in the database. So the checkbox that I was talking to you about, if you don't check it, you're only going to get these database objects here, but you're not going to get any function imports here. Now let's take a look at an example of calling these functions. So we go to our program class. These functions or methods are available in our DB context. Remember DB context? It's one of the classes that our entity data model generates, which gives us access to the database. Let me refresh your memory. So we go back to Solution Explorer. This is our Pluto model. And if we expand that, under Pluto model.context, look, this is our Pluto DB context, which derives from DB context. And it exposes a bunch of DB sets, as you see here, which map to the tables in the database. Now, one thing that is missing here is the functions or methods that wrap those stored procedures. And the reason for that is because I forgot to save the model upon importing those stored procedures. So let's go back to our entity data model and save it. So it regenerated all of our domain classes and the DB context. Now let's take a look at the DB context again. Look. Now we've got a bunch of methods here, like delete course, which is the wrapper around our stored procedure. Here is another one, func get author courses. Here's another one, get courses, insert course, and update course. So every stored procedure or every function that you import into your model will end up as a method in your DB context. So let's use one of these as an example. Back to the program. I'm going to create a DB context here. And call get courses. I store the results in a variable called courses. And now let's use a for each block to display the courses on the console. So I simply display the title of each course on the console. Let's run the application. Here you go. So we've got currently 3 courses in the database. So as you see, it's pretty easy to import stored procedures or functions into your model and call them like regular methods.